Here in Washington, we're known for our apples, and Seattle Cider Company is a truly local cidery based in SoDo. Seattle cider is made from fresh-pressed Washington apples, never from concentrate, and there's a new vivid light cider line with crisp flavors like tart apple, juicy pear, bright cherry, fresh peach, wild blueberry, and ripe plum. Those all sound really good. Find Seattle Cider on the web at seattlecidercompany.com to check out the cider lineup, find where Seattle Cider is sold, and view upcoming taproom events. Search for local bars, restaurants, and grocery stores that sell Seattle cider using the Cider Finder on their website. CityCast Seattle is made possible by AT&T. America's first network is also its fastest and most reliable. Based on RootMetrics' United States Root Score Report, 1H 2025. Tested with best commercially available smartphones on 3 national mobile networks across all available network types. Your experiences may vary. RootMetrics rankings are not an endorsement of AT&T. When you compare, there's no comparison. AT&T. This is CityCast Seattle. I'm Jane C. Hu, and here's what Seattle's talking about. Today on CityCast Seattle, are the Sonics coming back? Also, the latest woes faced by the e-bike company Rad Bikes. But first, Seattle film critics just announced their best films of the year. Chase Hutchinson, critic and journalist at the Seattle Times and a contributor to KUOW. What was your favorite film of the year?
This is almost an impossible question because I think it was a good year for movies, but I'll say April, the Georgian film, which unfortunately nobody can see right now, which we can get into.
Oh, such a film critic.
I know. Oh.
My favorite film is the one no one else
got
can
to
see.
see it
No.
early.
It's that it got a theatrical release and then it hasn't yet made its streaming debut.
Do you know when that's going to drop and where folks might be able to see it?
I'm hoping, if not by the end of this year, early next. And I believe it would just be on all VOD platforms soon. It had played at SIFF, the film festival, and then made a brief, small theatrical return. And now we're just in the waiting game. Movies are in a weird place, but they're good
truly
ones.
Are. And we'll get to that. We also have here creative producer Liam Billingham. Liam, what was your favorite movie of the year? Film.
Yes, films. I don't know if it's my favorite film of the year, but I want to shout out something that's getting ignored at awards time, partially because of its genre, which is 28 Years Later.
Ooh.
The follow-up to 28 Days Later, which is like, I found to be a truly extraordinary movie about being alive when your nationalism might be a lie.
Oh, what? That doesn't feel relevant to current
No, it's not very topical at all, but it's very good and very sad and a very entertaining zombie film as well.
Okay, so Liam, you mentioned that because of the genre it's in. Say more about that. Is it just because people would have assumed it was a zombie flick, or like what? How does that play into its awards consideration?
I mean, I think this is evolving as evidenced by a movie like Parasite winning 5-6 years ago, which is like kind of a thriller, obviously,
Was
with a
that
larger
5 or 6 years ago?
2020. It was the last good thing that happened was Bong Joon-ho winning Best Director. Yeah, that's a clip I watch when I'm sad. Anyway, yeah, I would say that there's an evolving feeling about this, and I'm sure Chase can speak to it too, but often comedies and genre films get ignored by the bigger bodies because they are often considered lesser than.
Especially horror movies and performances, like Lupita Nyong'o a couple years ago for Us, Toni Collette in Hereditary, both like seismic performances that get skipped over for your more typical fare.
Okay, so this brings me to a total film noob question. I am curious, how are these awards determined? So like, Seattle film critics, presumably there are so many movies that could be considered for these awards. How do you all narrow it down? How do you figure out the categories? Like, are there criteria, or is it kind of just like vibes based?
There is some criteria. We typically have been requiring at least some sort of local theatrical release. because we think the theatrical experience is important. And to make it kind of newsy, there was an interesting study today that like young people are actually really still going out to the movies. So we think it's important to support that. But other than that, it's whatever we think is the best. Collectively as a body, local Seattle film critics, whatever medium we're in, think are the best movies. And the exciting thing is we've been expanding into recognizing more local films, which I'm excited to shout out because everyone is talking about One Battle After Another, which did break a record for us.
So could you give us just like a quick primer on like what makes up the Seattle Film Critics, who it is? And
Sure. So we were established in 2016, and we're just a collective of local film critics across a variety of things, be it print, be it radio, podcast, television, etc., reviewing films consistently. And increasingly, what we've been about is spotlighting local film and making it so that we're different than the other critics organizations. I've talked a little bit about this, but we now have a Pacific Northwest Award for shorts and for features. We have the John Hartle Award, which is named for the late Seattle Times film critic. Oh. And this year, the first year we gave it to Lily Gladstone, then we gave it to Kyle MacLachlan of Fallout and Twin Peaks and other things. And then recently, for next year, we're recognizing Sky Hopinkna, who made this documentary Powwow People that was shot entirely locally. So we vote on the best movies of the year. That's the big thing. But we're also kind of wanting to lend our voice and champion people making exciting local films that you can't find anywhere else that maybe people should be more aware of. That's kind of the broad big picture of it. But also, we want to be a true Seattle Film Critics Society, not like those other critics societies. We're here in Seattle.
Love that. I'm not really a film person, as previously established, but I will be using those awards as a guideline for what is worth checking out.
There is an award for all the Fast and the Furious movies you give every year for Jane.
Good,
specifically.
Good.
Yeah.
We're going to name it after you, Jane.
Oh my
Jane
God.
C. Who, Too Fast, Too Furious Award for Cinematic Achievement.
Thank you. I'm so honored. So I know that one of the films that you all chose was Songs of Black Folks, which is a short. I don't know that much about short films. I mean, how does a film like that find success? Like how does that get on people's radars? Like, what is the release of these short films like versus these, bigger kind of nationally backed blockbusters?
That's a very good question. And I'm glad to actually talk about it because I often will find getting attention and eyeballs from my end as a journalist on short films can be kind of hard because it's like, oh, they're a short film. Like, You can't.
How short are we talking? Like what qualifies as a short film versus like a full, like whatever, feature length film?
So I believe Songs of Black Folk, if you see it on PBS POV, you can watch the full short. It's 26 minutes and it had premiered at a festival and then does find a way to get distribution through PBS in this case. That's not always the case. Sometimes it can just be that you release it yourself. Sometimes the New Yorker can pick it up if you're lucky. But it is kind of a tough thing. And that's unfortunate because I think this is a very good short. That was the film that we picked for the best Pacific Northwest short. And I want to shout out my colleague Thomas, who really got that off the ground. And it's about history. It's about music. It's about this place. And I wish there could be more chances to see it in theaters, but I think it's still something that plays well, even if you just have to like stream it on a laptop. It's quite good.
When I was in film school, I went to grad school for film and we had to make a short film. And I started in 2011. So, not too long ago, but there was sort of the mentality then was like, you have to make a short film. And I think a lot of us were like, why would we make a short film? Can we just make a feature? But the wisdom has changed. Now it's like short films are marketable. They can play on New York Op Docs. Theaters will now do Oscar shortlisted film screenings, so you can actually watch the films. And YouTube, you can put a short film on YouTube and it can blow up. Like short content is actually obviously much more popular.
Well, our attention spans are shit, so you would think that a short film might be a format that could find more of an audience in coming years. I mean, this also makes me think about the future of film with Netflix and Paramount are bidding for control of Warner Brothers, which just kind of feels like a Mad Libs of like giants and movie making, all becoming the same company yet again. How could this kind of merger affect production and like what could be coming out, especially locally, if that has any impact?
So I did talk to some local folks in theaters specifically, because this year I've been doing a lot of reporting on independent theaters. And the concern would be that the theatrical window gets smaller, that you can't kind of protect what was already a dwindling exclusive time to see something in theaters, and it could just be day and date on Netflix. Now, the Netflix CEO has said that's not going to be the case, but has said that they would look into it, which obviously kind of leaves open the door for that. And so that's like the big concern. As for what gets made, no one really knows, because Netflix's priorities are different than a typical studio. They're oftentimes looking for more shows, more stuff just to keep you watching. And I say stuff somewhat derisively because people look at Netflix and they say, there's just a lot of garbage sometimes, that there's not...
Hashtag content.
Yeah, exactly. And so this year, because like we recognize Train Dreams, which I won't go into again because we did a previous podcast about it.
Yeah, if folks have not listened to that, go back and find our Train Dreams episode.
But we recognize that as our best Pacific Northwest film. I don't know if Netflix themselves would have made that movie. That was a movie that was made independently in the region, got picked up out of a festival, and I'm glad to see people talking about it and having robust discussions, because my first impression when that happened was, oh, nobody's going to hear about this. This is just going to vanish into the content void. And so there's a lot of uncertainty. The only other thing I would add, and it might be kind of a way to pivot into something else, is Netflix has picked up some documentaries that maybe wouldn't have gotten distribution otherwise, but they then kind of vanish. And so it's a double-edged sword. So we, the Seattle critics, recognize the documentary WTO 99, which I know I had mentioned on the previous podcast I was on, and we could talk about more fully later. But that's like a really significant documentary that is currently playing in theaters around the country and will be kind of getting a release on VOD at some point. But it's like, unless you get that Netflix pickup, there's not a lot of pathways to kind of a wide distribution. Even though I remember the days of like Siskel and Ebert recognizing Hoop Dreams and that exploding and becoming this like event. And it was a great movie, but I think just our distribution channels, our viewership has changed. And so all of this kind of connects. So to have the positive, there are still good movies out there. People will still be making good movies. Songs of Black Folk is a great short documentary. WTO 99 is a great feature-length documentary. Train Dreams is a great feature-length film. There will still be good things to see and good art. The industry just is shifting pretty rapidly amongst people's feet, both locally and nationally.
All right, well, let's leave it there for now. And when we come back, we'll talk about the Sonics. I've been making a point of getting out and visiting or revisiting spots that I don't go to every day in town. So this weekend, a friend and I did a little downtown outing, like we got lunch in Pioneer Square, and then we made our way to the Seattle Art Museum, one of Sam's 3 locations. Sam's collection is wonderfully curated. I've always appreciated how much care they've put into giving museum goers context about artists and how their work represents a moment in history. And right now they've got this special exhibit that I feel like really exemplifies that. It's called Farm to Table, and it explores the role of French Impressionist art in capturing the late 1800s culinary scene in France. There were pieces by well-known artists like Monet and Renoir, but the pieces that spoke to me the most were by some lesser-known artists that depicted like farming, still lifes of food spreads, or tables of people eating. And it got me thinking about how what we eat, with whom we dine, and where that food comes from is always a reflection of wealth, class, and the current moment. Anyway, I highly recommend going to check it out. You can learn more about the exhibit and get tickets at visitsam.org/farm. Hey Liam, what are you doing for New Year's?
Hi Jane. You know, I haven't narrowed it down yet, but I'm thinking a nice dinner, but I need some activity to occupy my rambunctious children.
Ooh, okay, I have just the thing for you. I feel like I'm so bad about making plans in advance, and so I just end up like paying a ridiculous amount of money to get into a bar.
Yes.
But I heard that Argosy is doing New Year's Eve cruises, and they have one that is an all-ages fireworks cruise. It leaves from either the waterfront downtown or South Lake Union. And they also, I guess if you want to leave your kids at home, there's a 21 plus party cruise.
Sign me up for that one. That sounds great.
Yeah, sounds like a fun way to ring in the new year, right?
It does.
All right, well, there are limited seats for New Year's Eve sailings, so you can book on argosycruises.com if you want to firm up your plans before December 30th. This week, NBA Commissioner Adam Silver said that the league is considering expansion and that they would likely make a decision about that sometime next year. He's specifically mentioned Seattle as a potential market. And if this feels familiar to you, it's because this has just been in and out of the news for the last year or so. So I think the last time it came up was over the summer, when the commissioner had said that the Board of Governors was potentially going to start the process in July, but nothing has come of it yet. Chase, Liam, are you all basketball people? Like, would you be excited for the Sonics to come back?
I very much would be. The only thing I would like to say is we do have a basketball team. We have the Seattle Storm. We have a good team. There's an audience of people who would love to see another team here. I will say we gotta get an answer soon. Like, I know that he acknowledged in his speech that he's trying not to lead us on, but man, this feels like kids at Christmas where it's like, I promise you'll have this, or I promise you'll have that. And I feel like we need some sort of clarity on that. But I think it would be an exciting thing, especially because Seattle has...
teasing us.
Exactly. Seattle's had 2 expansion teams recently for hockey. There's sports fans here. People would be excited.
Yeah, I mean, why are folks coming here, you think? Like, it seems like we're becoming a magnet for more pro teams.
I think it's because there's that history, even as the Mariners didn't make it to the end. If Seattle fans can deal with the highs and lows of Mariners and the many struggles, shout out to the documentary, The History of the Seattle Mariners, that captures all this. We can support more teams, and I think people would be excited to have more teams.
You know, to add to that, 2 things that came up this week. One was, like, we did our episode on Monday. Hannah Krieg made the good point that, like, maybe Cal Raleigh should be the person of the year because of, you know, the joy that he helped bring to Seattle over the summer. And I think that fact that most people can get behind their sports team. You know, like, I was a big sports kid in high school, and then I fell off a little bit. But, like, I will gladly watch basically any sport if it's on and get way too wrapped up in it. And I think the second thing is that we featured a story 2 days ago in our newsletter about how people are still moving here. Like, it's a growing city, and with that comes more people wanting more things to support locally. And I do think there's, like, really something in a time when, like, our national politics seems so fractured to have hopefully a good-natured local sports teams to support and, like, get behind as a community. That in my mind is never a bad thing.
The only reason I'd be sad about the Sonics coming back is that I kind of enjoy having the Storm be our team.
Totally.
You know, where I'm like, no one watches men's sports. Of course, we just have the WNBA here. And, like, that's obviously the basketball you should be watching. But I mean, that does bring to mind the question of where the Sonics would play. I believe, you know, back when they were still in town, Key Arena was still around. It's now Climate Pledge Arena, which is where the Storm play, also where the Kraken and the Torrent play, which have overlapping seasons with basketball. Feels like it would be kind of chaotic calendar-wise to have 4 whole teams sharing a stadium, but, like, has that been done before? Like, is that going to work? Not to get too ahead of ourselves, but I'm already there, so.
I was going to say, if it hasn't been done, it would be something that would be very on brand, the Seattle chaos. We just got to embrace it. We got to roll with it. The only thing I would say is that I think we should change the name of the arena, even as I think it's for a good purpose. My hot take is we should rename it after Chris Bannon, the late Sonics guy. If nobody knows who he was an icon. And if the Sonics come back and are playing in that arena, it needs to be the Chris Bannon arena. I'm saying it now.
Oh,
that's my nice wholesome thing for the week.
Okay.
That's beautiful. Yeah, and I will say that I'm not so concerned about that. I feel bad for the person whose job it is to produce the schedule for that, but there's nothing there that can't be solved by the outlandish amounts of money that are thrown at professional sports. So they'll figure it out.
Yeah, I do wonder if at some point there's going to be movement for yet another stadium, but I can't imagine where that would even go at this point.
The one thing I was going to say, picking up on something you said, Jane, that I think is actually valuable and interesting, there was a documentary a couple years ago, and I know this is the thing I always am going to be saying. There was this documentary that...
There's this documentary.
I know. There was this documentary about Sue Bird that was partly about how women's sports in America, not just Seattle, are not supported in the same way, to where she was having to travel and play abroad in other sports leagues because they weren't making enough money. Mm-hmm. And I think this, whatever happens, if we get a team, if we don't get a team, people should still continue to support the Seattle Storm more than they already are, more, especially if there's another team, and have it hopefully be that like a rising tide lifts all ships, because it's a serious thing to then play year round. It leads to more injuries. The documentary is fascinating in how it explores all of the wild stories of what the other leagues were like. And so I would recommend people don't forget about your Storm. They're here, they're playing, they're great.
Yeah. I mean, same thing with the Torrent, knowing that those players are paid so much less than NHL players. I mean, perennial difference between men's and women's pro sports that I hope the gap closes over time. And I mean, people are voting with their dollars. And I feel like here in Seattle, people are really showing up for the Torrent.
If people want to watch this documentary, it's called Sue Bird in the Clutch. And then also as a shameless plug, I talked to her about it when it came out last year for the Seattle Times. And she told me her favorite Seattle food to eat at a sporting event. So would recommend... All right, let me see if I can find it.
Wait, what? You can't leave us hanging like that, Chase.
Yeah, because I wanted to talk about Seattle dogs, personally. I always want to.
She gets the sausage and peppers, then the garlic fries at Mariners games.
Ooh. Solid choice.
I just disassociated thinking about garlic fries.
I feel like my go-to is usually the chicken place in Climate Pledge, but... I don't know. I do feel like it's somewhat fiscally responsible to try and eat dinner before, but like being responsible is boring.
Especially at sporting events.
Yeah.
That's when you can break the rules.
Yes. Well, until the Sonics come to town, we'll keep going to Storm games, and we've got our pick of, so many other wonderful pro teams. So Adam Silver, stop teasing us. Just give us a straight answer, please. And let's take a quick break. When we come back, we'll talk about Rad Power Bikes. This holiday season, give your loved ones something they'll enjoy for years to come. An Aura frame. It's a gorgeous digital photo frame that you can preload with photos and videos. Mine currently has about 300 photos of my dog, Cookie. The app is super easy to use, and the image quality really impressed me. Plus, I was super pleased that it only took me a few minutes to set up. And I love that you can invite family and friends to share photos to your frame, too. For a limited time, save on the perfect gift by visiting auraframes.com to get $35 off Aura's best-selling Carver matte frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code CityCast at checkout. That's auraframes.com, promo code CityCast. This deal is exclusive to listeners, and frames sell out fast, so order yours now to get it in time for the holidays. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. The Seattle e-bike company Rad Power Bikes has now filed for bankruptcy as of this week. This comes about 3 weeks after the Consumer Product Safety Commission issued a safety warning about their e-bike batteries telling people to immediately remove them from their bikes and take them to a hazardous waste center because over 30 people had reported that they had caught on fire. Are you all familiar with Rad? Like, have you all seen their bikes around town?
I've definitely seen them, and I'm impressed by how many people seem to use these as an option in Seattle.
What about you, Chase? Have you seen them around town at all? Or e-bikes in general, I guess, if you noticed.
I have seen e-bikes around town. I wasn't like Hannah, where I'm always being swarmed and almost like knocked off the sidewalk. But I suppose
I think those are scooters for what it's worth. But yes.
I suppose I should have been looking out for the flaming bikes going by every time to know that those were Rads.
Well, for what it's worth, I do feel like I have seen plenty of Rad bikes that weren't catching on fire. So they've...
that's what you love to see. Yeah, that's
that
good.
is what you love to see. So they were founded in 2007, and they have just been a giant in e-bikes. I believe they are the largest e-bike company in North America. And in my observation, they're really just in the bike scene, really like define this whole direct-to-consumer e-bike market. I think the type of Rad bike that I see most around town, that I notice the most at least, are the Rad wagons. Like if you all have noticed people like hauling a bunch of groceries or like having a little kid seat on the back of an e-bike, a lot of those are Rad wagons. And I mean, I just feel like over time, as you know, this is a Seattle-based company, I feel like the community here has really adopted a lot of Rad bikes and like this model of e-bike as a way to get around more easily. Like I feel like there's been this shift over the last 10 years of people turning to e-bikes in this very hilly city and thinking of them more as an actual mode of transportation to do errands on, to move your family around on, in a way that I think it's just really shifted the culture around like bike accessibility. So it's a little sad to see that this is happening. I mean, it looks like they're going to try and keep the company alive. The type of bankruptcy they filed for allows a company to be sold. And Rad, in a statement to GeekWire, said that they're hoping to sell the company in the next 45 to 60 days. I mean, I know neither of you actually own a Rad, but if you all did own a Rad, what kind of questions might you have about what's going to happen?
You know, I do not own a Rad, but I do think that like the actual issue of like a specific brand or type of product becoming sort of the main one that people use is like an issue across all technology now, like whether it's Apple Podcasts or Spotify, and like having to deal with the fact that you put your eggs in one basket, so to speak. There's a proprietary quality to it, is something that we're all stuck with a little bit. You know, we own an exercise machine that's proprietary, and if that company ever shuts down, like, can I still use it? I don't know.
I think the thing would be if you needed it to get fixed, there's no one you could go
or
to.
updated.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. I mean, one thing that I have found and heard from friends that own e-bikes, not just Rad bikes, but, you know, e-bikes of all sorts, is that often a lot of bike shops will not do maintenance on e-bikes because a lot of those e-bike companies have proprietary parts or, you know, like they just either don't have the tools or, you know, don't really want to mess with all of that. And there are specific dealers, of course. Like I know like Rad was doing maintenance on their own bikes, that where people have specialized in e-bike maintenance and parts. But yeah, I do wonder if that proprietary aspect of things will affect people who own a Rad bike. Are you getting it from the same company again? Like, who's going to work on your bike? So I do hope that whatever sale Rad has cooking is successful, just for the sake of the consumer, so they have someplace to go. I saw that in the bankruptcy filing that part of the company's debts are $8.4 million to U.S. Customs and Border Protection for tariffs.
Whoa.
I mean, does that signal something bigger about the state of the industry and the headwinds that businesses are facing right now? Or I don't know if that's just uniquely them for some reason, or if, you know, these numbers might look this way for any big company that, you know, we don't see the numbers always because they're not filing for bankruptcy.
as a person who is not an economist, the more I read about economy things from economists, the more it is that we just try and get by on vibes. But then you drop a number like that and it's like, oh, that's significant. I don't know the full impact of what this could have on a company. And if it was already that things were challenging and this was just another thing on top of it. But that is pretty sobering of this then having a real impact. Because then I imagine, let's say that Rad isn't able to make a sale. I imagine if there was another company that tried to enter this market, or if there was an attempt to have a competitor, which would be better for the consumer in a lot of ways, they're probably now thinking, is it worth it if we're going to get hit with these same tariffs? Are we going to be able to make our way in? It's sobering to hear something like that. It's not a rad fact, it's a sad fact.
I don't think we could end on a better note. So let's just leave things here for now. That's all for today here at CityCast Seattle. I'm your host, Jane Sihu. Chase Hutchinson, thanks, but no thanks for your episode-ending dad joke. Thanks for being here.
Of course. Thanks so much for having me.
Thanks for being here, Liam.
The pleasure was mine, Jane and Chase.
Listeners, we want to hear from you. Send us your news tips, your questions, your hot goss, or your thoughts about the potential Sonics homecoming by sending an email to seattle@citycast.fm. And if you're Adam Silver specifically, just email us whether or not the Sonics are coming back, please. You can also text us or leave us a voicemail on the CityCast hotline at 206-880-3931. If you're enjoying the podcast, be sure to follow us on Apple, Spotify, or wherever you listen so you never miss an episode. And please leave us a little review. It really helps. You can get more local news and events delivered right to your inbox, especially if you want flood updates, by subscribing to our newsletter. Just go to seattle.citycast.fm. Until next time, see ya, Seattle.